Well, the police search for missing mum Gaynor Lord has entered its 6th day. Officers in Norwich have released footage which traces her last known steps after finding her coat in a nearby river. Well, talkTV correspondent Nick Ellerby is in Norwich for us. Nick, what is the latest?
Good afternoon, Peter. The latest is that we've had the son have spoken to Gaynor Lord's brother-in-law, stepbrother, who says that her disappearance is proper out of character, his words. I've also spoken to a number of people in Norwich today who knew Gaynor either recently at the tennis club or back in the 80s where she worked at a pub called the Ribs of Beef. And everybody telling me she was a very fun, chatty, attractive woman, I keep hearing. And that everyone is very, very concerned about her. We know her family are being comforted by specialist officers. Right now, police are focusing their search on the River Wensum, at the bottom of Wensum Park, which is just on the northwest edge of the centre of Norwich. That CCTV footage that police released yesterday, as they ask people to come forward with any other information that might help them build up a clearer picture of that journey that we know Gaynor took from her place of work at Gerald's department store on Friday, where she left her shift early at about 2:45 p.m. She was due to finish at 4. You can then see her on CCTV rushing through Norwich city centre. She makes her way here to the cathedral grounds and she's seen coming in to the cathedral. The police are not sure whether she entered the cathedral itself or not, but they are asking people, especially for information about this area, whether she entered the cathedral or whether anyone saw her on Friday afternoon. We then know she went to Wensum Park, as I say, on the northwest edge of the centre of Norwich. And a couple of witnesses report seeing a woman that they believe to be Gaynor Lord in the park at that time, and another eyewitness saying that they saw a woman remove a coat and do a yoga pose. Later on Friday, police found her clothes in different parts of the park, also a handbag and jewellery and a mobile phone, and her coat was actually on the river, which led the police to start searching the river. They've been searching all weekend. We saw a specialist dive team from Lincolnshire Police come in yesterday and help Norfolk Constabulary search that part of the river. I did speak to the superintendent, Wes Hornigold, who's in charge of this case from Norfolk Police, and I asked him particularly why they were focusing on that part of the river. Here's what he told me.
Our working hypothesis, based upon all of the evidence that we've found at the moment, is that Gaynor has entered the water. So working with partners, including the Environment Agency, to understand the waterways, that's led us to systematically search the water. Then today we're obviously concentrating on those areas of deeper water where we haven't currently been able to get through, and that work has led us to kind of move on to where they are now.
So there's a police tent set up on the edge of the river, and we've seen the teams do sweeps. It's quite a decent-sized river with a good flow of water. It's tidal as well, even this far up. And we've seen them sweep the river with sonar, and then we've seen specialist divers go in and painstakingly search yesterday about a tennis court-size area over 2 hours. And they're doing the same thing again today. We're going to speak to another officer at Norfolk Constabulary just after 2 and try and get another update for you, Peter.
Thank you very much indeed, Nick. On the scene there, Nick Ellerby, talkTV correspondent and former Metropolitan Police Detective Chief Inspector Mike Neville is with me now. Mike, what do you make of this? And we're into the 6th day. Realistically, of course, we hope Gaynor Lord is found alive and well, but realistically, what is the chance of that?
It seems to be very limited, and I really feel for all the family, of course. And there are parallels, of course, here with the Anthony Knott case, who was a fireman who went missing 3 or 4 years ago, and, of course, Nicola Bulley. And both of those went into a river. And it would seem to be, oh, it's only a small area, but, of course, it's a very dark and awful place to search. And with both of those individuals, sadly, their bodies were recovered. It's about 3 weeks from the moment of going in. It takes a long time for them to come back. And it's a difficult, those police officers who are the divers, that is a painstaking and quite horrible job, to be quite honest. So we ask people...
Can they see... I mean, sorry, this is probably a naive question, but can they see very much?
They can see very little. They can see the hand in front of their face, really. That's how painstaking the search will be. And, of course, they're focusing on the cathedral now. And what I've tended to find, and let's hope it's not a suicide, but what I've tended to find when I've investigated them is that people sort of have some time when they're considering what they're doing. I remember looking at somebody who jumped in front of a train, and they spent an age going around the station first, contemplation. And I hope it's not the case here, but we see somebody going to a cathedral, maybe a place of worship, we don't know. And then yoga in the park, which was very late on, and the witness says it seemed an unusual thing to do at that time of day. And then, but the almost ritualistic laying out of clothing and rings and mobile phones, it does lead us to this conclusion.
That concern you?
It does concern me that somebody's done that. It seems almost like a preparation to do something. And it's really sad. The police seem to be doing a good job. Hopefully, you know, there's lessons learned from the Lancashire case.
I want to ask you about that, actually, because you mentioned Nicola Billy earlier, and Lancashire Police really did make a number of errors there. We know that the two police forces, both in Norwich and Lancashire, they're in touch with one another to try and iron this out and make sure that these similar mistakes are not made. That is presumably something you welcome.
Of course it is, and it's good for the family that this will happen. I mean, with the Nicola Bully case, one of the main things was the handling of the press, not filling in gaps, and so conspiracy theorists put them in, and then also employing some search teams whose methods may be described as you know, questionable, who made statements which were quite rash in a way. And, you know, Nicola was only found a mile, it was a mile away. Anthony Knott was 5 miles.
And words matter, and people have to be so incredibly careful because they're, from a communications perspective, something I've worked on myself, I know that you've got to give enough information, but at the same time, you don't want to give what are essentially things that need to be kept secret or within the police to aid the investigation.
Absolutely.
Is that correct?
So with Nicola Bully, what you had at extremes, 1 minute we painted a picture that she was Mrs. Normal, there's no problems at all, and then at the end of disclosing all sorts of personal medical information, which just didn't have to be disclosed. But let's hope that Gaynor turns up, but I'm really, sadly, I've got to say that I think the police hypothesis, as the superintendent mentioned, is correct. And let's hope before Christmas the family gets some either great news she's alive or some closure, that Christmas isn't spent thinking,
worrying and wondering what might have been.